sky, but you never know. A packaging device is set to fill detergent packets with a mean weight of meh. The standard deviation is known to be, really awkward phrasing, but I'm going to kind of get the point across, known to be 5 grams. It is important to check the machine periodically because if it's overfilling, it increases the cost of materials, whereas if it's underfilling, then it's shorting the expectation of the individual receiving the packets. All right, random sample of 25 boxes is weighed and shows a mean net weight of 152.5 grams. Can we conclude the machine is no longer producing the 150 gram quantities? Use a 0.05 significance level. Okay. So our assumptions. Again, we're working off a raw list. All right, so we're looking at simple random sample, n is greater than 30, or we're assuming it's coming from a distribution that's approximately normal. And the distinction between a t-test and a z-test is whether or not we know the population standard deviation. All right, so the condition, a condition, simple random sample. Standard deviation is known.
Can we just say it equals 5?
You could. You're not wrong if you do. But by identifying it as a condition, you're stating that it's been verified.
Okay.
So you're in good shape there. What a lot of people will do is list out the assumptions. They'll just create a little title heading and say assumptions. Write down all the assumptions. Just put a little check mark next to the ones that are verified to be conditions. All right, and that's perfectly acceptable. All right. Do we have the appropriate sample size?
No, but we do know that we can pretty much assume it's a normal distribution.
Keyword assume.
So it's an assumption.
So it's an assumption. All right, unless it explicitly states it in the problem, or they give us an n value greater than 30, or they give you a raw set of data. The raw set of data is the case that you're probably not going to like, because it means that you can actually do more in terms of verifying assumptions. If there is a raw set of data, you can create a graph. You can create a normal probability plot and determine whether or not the data is distributed approximately normally. All right, so not the case here. So we just have to go with the idea that it's an assumption. All right, so approximately a normal distribution. Can we conclude that the machine is no longer producing the appropriate quantities? All right, so it's not saying more, it's not saying less. It gave a case where producing too much is bad, and also a case where producing too little is bad. So the idea here is either way, it's not going to be a good thing. All right, so the mean is supposed to be $1.50. Yeah. So mu. The alternative it's just simply not. You don't have to worry about me drawing a crappy diagram because I already produced that. It's a two-tailed. I'll figure out a way to screw it up though. Don't worry.
Should we put under assumptions that alpha is 0.05?
You don't have to.
That's a condition that they gave you.
Because in order to run a hypothesis test, there has to be an alpha value of some kind. So you don't have to assume it, you don't have to make it a condition, it's just there. I probably could do a better job of making this look somewhat symmetrical. And it's also going to play itself out in the diagram. So 0.025. So my critical values are going to be Z. Is approximately equal, but I'm just right equal. Is it 1.645?
9 point.
Oh, 1.96?
Yeah.
All right. So that gives me the appropriate diagram. I do need my test statistic, so I'll just jot that up here. Z would be equal to 152.5. Minus 150 over 5 over the square root of 25. I don't know. It's dangerous when I go from memory. Except when I'm absolutely correct. I don't even remember typing this problem,
Just 2.5.
but that's pretty clean.
That's really nice.
That's like suspiciously clean. Like you get a problem like this, you're like, all right, we're dealing with made up data here. Hey, real world is not clean.
You think the managers faked it?
Real world is dirty, riddled with viri.
True.
Do that, home.
But I'm prepared. Says it right here. Human coronavirus. Had it all year. Been ready to rock.
Coronavirus all year?
Anything taken out of context. For the record, I had disaffected wipes that state human coronavirus. I am not, to the best of my knowledge, infected.
Oh, it's in
That's exactly what it is. That's
Did they have
exactly
to?
what you were
Did they have to like capture someone with the virus and wipe them clean with the Clorox?
I think that's the obvious way of handling it. And then, of course, make them swallow a wipe. All right, so 2.5 is going to be on the high side. So if I want the p-value, what I'm going to do is compute the probability with the normal CDF function. .5 to something large. Yeah, I don't want to pull up the calculator, so if somebody could just crank that up.
0.00621.
Say it again.
I got 0.00621.
Sounds reasonable. We got a 2.5 Z statistic that's going to fall squarely in the rejection area. So I'm expecting a p-value that's going to be substantially smaller than the 0.025. All right, so we're looking good there. I guess the one thing I didn't really handle, I mean, I kind of jumped right into it like an animal here. State the question, type of test, and the reasons for all that. We'll get to that in a sec. But this is enough to draw the conclusion, provided that you interpret the question correctly. All right, so the first part, which I kind of hand waved through, what is the question that we're trying to answer? And it's a vague, general question the way they phrased it. Machine not producing a 150-gram quantities. Throw a little question mark at the end, which makes it a question. That's how grammar works. Right? The type of test we discovered through the whole process was a z-test. Now, it would be correct, but also lazy of me to say the reason why it's a z-test is because of all this stuff in the assumptions and conditions. But you kind of want to look for key terms, phrases, whatever in the problem that kind of steer you in the right direction. So the reasons I'm going to say here is we're testing a claim about a mean. And we know the population standard deviation. All right. And really, I mean, in a manner of speaking, that's kind of like rephrasing the assumptions and conditions. But the key component there is that we're testing a claim about a mean. So you're testing a claim about a mean, or you're testing a claim about a proportion, right? So that's going to put you in one of two different categories. Once you decide that you're testing a claim about a mean, it's either a z-test or a t-test, depending on whether or not you know the population standard deviation. All right. So our conclusion, there is sufficient. To reject the claim that, and we have to state the null hypothesis in words.
Population mean box weight is 150 grams.
At, all right, I gave a little extra line there, but at the 0.05 significance level. Therefore, the claim that, we want to answer the question. The question happens to be related to the alternative hypothesis. So if we answer their question, we're also simultaneously addressing the alternative hypothesis, so that works. So can we conclude the machine is no longer producing the 150 gram quantities? Oversimplify that, we could say the machine is not producing the right amount, however you want to do it. But the answer would be yes. All right. So therefore, the claim that the machine is not producing 150 gram quantities is going to be true. Huh. Interesting. I have this thing where every time I fix a typo, I accidentally create a new one. So I must have fixed something here, but I don't know why this line is here. It should be, I don't even know if it needs to be there at all.
We might need I don't know, I might have needed more space to write the machine is no longer producing the 150.
Oh, I know what it,
Like one up.
that's true. So I think that should move up, but I think my thinking when I put that there was that you might need a follow-up sentence to address, if your conclusion didn't handle answering the question the right way, you might need a follow-up sentence, but it just looks weird. So I'll take fix it. You can keep it simple. Or whatever you already submitted. As long as it gets the idea across.